Our state has some incredible problems. My name is Lynn, Hinderaker. I'm here to talk about that with you and talk about the trends that have shaped this state and dragged us in one direction or another. We're not really we're not realizing the dream we had way back in the early 2000s or even around 2008 or 9 or 10. My name is Lynn Hinderaker. Welcome to WowBiz Nebraska. We're going to get it on right now. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. That was Muhammad Ali's, well, his concept, his mantra as he was boxing 20, 25 years ago. Many of us know still to this day Muhammad Ali has kind of reshaped the boxing world. But the key thing is its application to right now in the business world. It's a very interesting time, and you need to think carefully about when you are going to float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. I'm Lynn Hinderaker here on WowBiz Nebraska. Thanks for checking in. You know, the key thing about Muhammad Ali and his ability to move around quickly and deftly, I call it kinetically would be another way to say it, is that he would be boxing and he could see when his opponent, somebody like George Foreman or whomever, would lower their defenses and maybe their fist would move down or just a little bit, and he could notice it, he could immediately pop in and do some serious damage. And that was his core skill, his ability to see where the defenses were moving all the time and identify a fleeting opportunity. That phrase, fleeting opportunity, is key to our show here today. In fact, I'm going to give you 5 examples because in principle that makes sense, but maybe it could be a little bit tough to understand what you're really talking about, Lynn. So here we go. All right, I'm going to give you 5 different examples of fleeting opportunities that maybe will inspire you and your organization to float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. The first one is this. The Surgeon General recently issued a lengthy paper, kind of a big document, scientifically oriented. And by the way, the Omaha World-Herald actually carried a slimmed down version of this document. And the point of the document, from the Surgeon General no less, was that America is suffering from a plague of loneliness. Loneliness is more destructive to people's mentality and their body, because this is a mind-body connection thing, than heart problems, diabetes. Some serious things go on because of loneliness. Now, in and of itself, that's an interesting sidebar, but you can move along in your business. But you know what industry this particularly has relevance to? The live music industry. That's right, the live music industry. And by the way, the unions that represent the performers or the musicians, very relevant here. But the interesting thing is that when, and we all know this, when we go to an event and we see somebody performing and it's live music and people get emotional, they kind of have a good time and they're smiling and maybe they clap, et cetera, et cetera. And what happens when you are a part of a live music event, and by the way, it doesn't have to be a concert or even a nightclub or a restaurant, it could be outside in a sidewalk for that matter, but what happens is it attracts other people. It's an interesting thing how our defenses kind of go down, and you also kind of gravitate to people who seem to be particularly enjoying some song, or maybe the chorus in a song, that you also particularly enjoy. I'll never forget, back in my early 20s, I was working over in the Quad Cities in Iowa, and there's a gentleman there, also part of the same company, and he decided to offer me the opportunity. I would share his car. The two of us would drive around town. We were selling encyclopedias door to door, by the way, in that area, East Moline, Illinois. And he was playing some music on the radio, of course, as young men are prone to do. And a song came up called Show and Tell. And back in the 70s, it was a great song, exciting, upbeat. He started singing the chorus. I started singing the chorus. Now, these are strangers, right? But the two of us are kind of singing together. We're having a great time. And to this day, he's one of my closest friends, well over 40 years ago. And when we talk on the phone, which is fairly rare, by the way, show and tell keeps coming up in our dialogue, you see. So it's just one example of how live music can pull people. Now, that would happen to be broadcast, but the notion applies particularly to live music, where there's new energy there, and people kind of reveal themselves about what they like, and they're moving, and it's fun, and they clap. And it can sometimes attract other people. How you doing? I love that song too. Where did you first hear that song? Blah, blah, blah. It's a big, very interesting and common pattern, by the way. And it could be the antidote, the catalyst to loneliness here in our country. Something to think about, to be sure. It could be financed and funded, and basically the point of the whole thing would be more gigs, right? More gigs for musicians, more membership in the musicians' unions, and more informal, maybe segment or occasion-driven events where somebody has a small gig, and come on over, and we got a band playing, blah, blah, blah. It pulls people together, and that's a very positive thing in this day and age. So there you go. That's an opportunity strategically for the live music union-organized industry to respond to this incredible announcement from the Surgeon General. Let's do another one. Just heard, have you ever seen a young person, we'll say in their 20s, maybe their 30s, and they're walking around and they have earbuds in and they're listening to the music and they're doing their thing, whatever that is? Well, as it turns out, over the last 10 years or more, they've been turning that music up louder and louder, and it's actually impaired their hearing. So here we are. We're now in a second wave of hearing aids. The hearing aid industry is going through a dynamic transformation. It's reinventing itself. You normally have to go to a specialist and get a prescription and audiologist and so on. Now you can go to Target or Walmart and spend maybe less, $1,000, maybe $500, maybe $399 for an outstanding hearing aid that you'll wear the rest of your life. All right? So if you own a hearing aid manufacturing firm or a local retail store, you may want to move into a more defensive position. You may want to upgrade your lobby. You may want to change your logo. You may want to do some outreach or some additional marketing. You may want to contact all the people that are your past customers and invite them to come in. You're going to have to protect your brand legacy right now because you have a whole swamp of new technology that is attacking you. And a lot of people that are in the audiology business, the hearing aid business, are not fast movers when it comes to customer development. So that's a real opportunity for some of these other brands. Now here's another one. In America today, we have a trend that is very frightening, kind of goes back to the loneliness thing, and that is the fact that depression, very common, it began to really increase during the remote pandemic period of time, and people are home by themselves and so on, and a lot of people out there right now that are a little bit confused about, oh, who am I? What am I going to do with my life? I don't like my career. I don't like my boss. I'm unhappy. I'm not going to make enough money, et cetera, et cetera. It's a very serious depression is an issue. Now, out in Ashland, Nebraska, as you probably know, we have a museum out there, don't we? It's the Museum of SAC, Strategic Air Command, et cetera, et cetera. They added a couple more words onto it, but it's a very nice museum, and they have a lot of high-tech stuff, and they brought in a new executive director, a hero, if you will. He's an astronaut and so on. So he's really focused on spiffing it up and making it more high-tech and exciting. So visitors come to Ashland, Nebraska. Now, it's a good idea, but it may or may not sustain the growth that they're looking for. That museum has had trouble with revenues, and the numbers of visitors have been trending down over the last few years. But here's an idea. Now, think about metaphors and symbols. A lot of people don't do this. They want to talk about their product, and our product's great, and here we do, buy the product. Sometimes the symbol of what the product is or can be is more important to people and their psychology. So, what if there were a theme? And the theme is called, let's take the theme and we'll name it. We'll call it Fly Higher. Huh? Fly higher. Think about that for just a moment. It's a wonderful phrase that implies clearly, think differently, think at a higher level, be more philosophically driven, be more psychologically, be more self-aware, be less negative, much more positive. I mean, think of the massive application of that phrase, fly higher. Yeah, and they're some of the greatest motivational speakers alive today, from Tony Robbins all the way down, Steve Harvey, all of these guys. This is what they are talking about, flying higher, right? Lifting up, broadening your perspective about your life, your career, and whatever. So I'm telling you right now that museum and its executive director have an opportunity to turn the Ashland, Nebraska Museum into the vortex, really into the center of the motivational speaking industry, and get people coming in every single day, sometimes on Zoom, but sometimes live, talking about one theme and one theme only: how to fly higher. How to fly higher. It's an incredibly inspirational phrase, and it really applies beautifully, of course, to that organization. Now, one more time, I'm going to give you two more real quick, Shared living. In New York, the cost of apartments is really high, and a lot of older folks who are on fixed incomes and so on have made the decision to go ahead and share their apartment with another person, all right? And they have to be compatible with them and, make sure that they kind of are comfortable being with each other and so on. It's nothing romantic or anything like that. They're just sharing the footage, sharing the apartment and all the facilities. Well, this is an interesting thing because, as you might know, affordable housing is a huge issue in Nebraska and across the entire country. And also, we have an issue about downtown, don't we? People don't want to put money into downtown and fix it up and make it look nice, because I don't know if anybody will go there, and the retail, and that's an issue. All these downtowns in Nebraska could be upgraded, made more stylish and contemporary, and there is an opportunity there to rent out housing. And yes, there would be shared facilities, even bathrooms for that matter, but many people would say, I can live with that. I can live with that as long as it's hip and contemporary, and we do have areas where there is privacy. Shared living is a really viable concept in Nebraska, and particularly in downtown. And finally, older folks, as you probably know, are rejecting retirement. The whole notion of retirement turns them off. And a huge number of people over 55 are starting their own company. Yeah, they're becoming entrepreneurs at that particular age. Now, there's an organization in Omaha called Walnut Media, and they successfully broadcast boomer radio, which is a lot of music from the 60s, 70s, and maybe the early 80s. They have a great following. They're going to be moving more and more into podcasting, but the music is very powerful for these people, but they're also going into business. Now, why couldn't they play music from the 60s and 70s and then have somebody step in and say, hey, here's some examples of some things about business, new trends, here's how to get your business going, be aware of this and that. It'd be a wonderful fusion of exciting music that's relevant to those folks, while at the same time giving them the advice and the encouragement that they need to be entrepreneurs. There's 5 fleeting opportunities. Think about Muhammad Ali. If he saw them, he'd go, bam, yeah, bam, yeah. All right. Those are all opportunities that various industries, from music to architecture, could take advantage of. And that would be very exciting. And that's a very important point, a very important thing. Fleeting opportunity. Think about it as you think about the future of your company going forward. That's right. My name is Lynn Hinderaker, and this is WowBiz Nebraska. Thanks for sticking with us. I really appreciate your being here. And today's show is brought to you by a company called Urban Natural America. Let me say that again. It's an unusual name. Urban Natural, that's one combination word, urbannaturalamerika.com. Now, if you go to urbannaturalamerika.com, you're going to see two things that are pretty interesting, but I'm going to summarize it for you right now, okay? 3 words kind of summarize it: style, right? Sustainability, extremely important, and science. Those 3 S words will come up again and again when you go to Urban Natural America. It's the place where you learn about 50 million young knowledge workers. That's a lot of people, 38% of our entire population, give or take. And those folks are looking, as we speak, right, for a place to live and a place to work. They're looking for something affordable, but yet they want to do some exciting, innovative things. So they're looking at areas in Nebraska, believe it or not, but we have a long ways to go to be able to be attractive to those people. But urban natural design, where we see a lot of wood and metal, wood and glass, wood and tin, aluminum, and then also primal wood with acrylic. So we see organic and synthetic materials comprising the outside of buildings. Think about downtown now. Could be Nebraska City, could be Wayne, could be Broken Bow, Alliance, Beatrice. These are all communities that are trying to figure out, what do we do with downtown? I've already touched on one already, but urban natural design with contrasting materials and colors, as well as a lot of greenery. This is a key issue in attracting these young people. They're very into sustainability and the environment, very sensitive to the ecosphere, as you might know. So this is how we get them to come to Nebraska, show them the downtown, say, look at this, all right? Very contemporary, cutting edge, and oh, by the way, some of these are shareable apartments, and that may appeal to you and your budget. So there we go, Urban Natural America. Check it out. You'll see example after example of the buildings, and of course, lots of background on the people, most of them in their 20s and 30s, that are looking to come to your community. Check it out on urbannaturalamerika.com. All right. Hey, you know, again, thanks for joining us here on WowBiz Nebraska. I'm talking to people all over the state. Part of our work is economic development, of course, and that is going through tremendous paradigm shift. I mean, if you talk to all the national and regional associations, they are putting out paper after paper talking about how it's different. Economic development has changed. The focus now is on people, what kind of people you're going to be able to attract, and so on. And secondly, some of the amenities and so on that you're going to build into your community. It's far cry from where we were 10 years ago and earlier, where we were promising companies, if you only came, we'll set up a frontage road, we'll get you out on the edge of town, we'll cut the utilities the first year, you can hire a lot of laborers and get in there and it'll be just great, blah, blah, blah. That kind of pitch and then mentality is definitely changing. We're looking now for knowledge workers, and that's what they're telling us on the phones when the HR people, the CEOs get on, say, we're looking around for a branch, we want to expand. We want to know in your community what the number and the kinds of people you have that are creative. The word creative comes up much more often than you might imagine. So that is the change that has finally arrived in Nebraska. It's all over the country. People are struggling with it. And existing economic developers, I don't know what to well, they're in trouble because they've learned for years and years how to write grants and do all these things and accompany these companies that are potentially candidates to come to their community. And these people are now asking different questions altogether. And the answers to these questions are sometimes, no, we don't do that. We don't have those people here. We don't have too many of them, see? And so it's a tough game. We're right in the middle of it, and it's a time for switching. Anyway, so along these lines, here comes outsiders. Now you have all these people inside the community, and I've been here 10 years, and I've done this, and I know all about that, and so on. And suddenly, hi, I'm a consultant in the economic development world. I'm a talent attraction specialist, blah, blah, blah. I can work with your business community simultaneously while I work with your mayor, your municipal planner, whatever. So I can bring those two sectors of your community together and transform people in that area. So the question would be, because the outsider leaves with a card and maybe some material, and they sit back and say, why would we hire an outsider? Why do we need people coming in from outside? And it's an interesting question, and it's fairly common, even though it may not be spoken outwardly in any clear way, but that's what they want to know. So here are some issues, here's some answers to that question. I'm going to go very quickly here. We've got about 10 answers to why would I hire a consultant to come into our community, whether it's Hastings, Beatrice, any of these places, Nebraska City, South Sioux City. Why would I spend the money and bring somebody out there in here? Number one, to gain special expertise. My particular firm understands the urban natural prototype, the people that are looking for new homes, new businesses, new careers, they're knowledge workers. We know a little bit about them and why they're different from others. So that would be one example of knowing something, special expertise. Number two, identify problems. Well, nearly all consultants are expected to be able to identify problems. Sometimes it's not the actual product or the way the community looks, but it's the process. How do we get all these people together and have them converge, and then how do we get the money to get the job done? Number three, somebody to simply supplement the staff. This is very common. It's been probably 50% of my career as a consultant, as they say, we just need somebody to help with business development, and maybe you could do some training over there with Harry. He needs a little help with sales. Maybe you could go out and talk to some people. Whatever it is, that's supplementing the staff, and that's a legitimate way to use a consultant. Here's a whole different thing, and an exciting thing, very timely, as a catalyst for change. Just as a catalyst for change. You bring somebody in, they have a different point of view. They've worked in 10, 20, 30, 40 industries, so they've seen it work and not work in one way or another. Do we really need a plan? What did you do? How does that work when you've done that before? How did that happen? I don't know. You see, so there's a new perspective. And especially now, as the world is really changing rather rapidly with artificial intelligence and all the things that have worked their way into our life after the pandemic. To provide an objective viewpoint, well, it's kind of like the same thing, but it's invaluable. You know, if the boss has a particular bent or a particular idea, and nobody in the employees want to tell him or her something different, so you're stuck, see? You're stuck. So it's very helpful to have somebody with some credentials come in from outside and say, look, you may not enjoy hearing this, but here's the deal. Boom, boom, boom. And they realize that that's an important process. Here's another one. To teach or coach problem employees. Now, there's two kinds of problem employees. There are people who are underperforming, they're underachievers, they just can't keep up with the energy and the flow of the company. Then there's another type of we'll call them underachiever or problem employee. These are the people that have wonderful ideas, a lot of excitement, they feel like they should be doing better, they should be making more money, they're out there trying new things even without talking to anybody about it, etc. So both people on the extremes of the continuum of employees need to be coached in different ways so that they can be well integrated into the culture of the company. All right, to do the dirty work. This is a very important thing for a consultant, the ability to do a dirty work. Sometimes it involves firing somebody, right, or telling them something that they're not aware of, that maybe they're acting inappropriately or saying things that are inappropriate for that particular company or culture. Anyway, so doing the dirty work is part of the job. It doesn't happen a lot, but certainly sometimes. We're number 8 now. These are all new answers to why would I hire a consultant? Why do I need an outsider? They cost money. Who knows? I don't know them, you see. So number 8, to inject new life into the organization. Now, this is something that I've done a number of times, and it's one of my favorite things to do. You don't really come in and tell people, I'm here to inject new life, by the way. That doesn't really work. What you do, though, is expose them to new points of view, treat them respectfully when maybe they're not being treated respectfully, give them opportunities that they didn't have before, form committees or task forces, include them in there, listen carefully and respectfully to what they have to say. Within 3 to 6 months, they are a different group of people, and they are grateful to the owner of the company for bringing in the outsider or the consultant. Number 9, very relevant right now, expand or create a new division. Now, this is something that should be happening a lot more, but business owners don't know how to do it. They just don't know when to pull the trigger, and how do I staff it, or do I get everybody together on this? And it's really hard, and yet here comes the opportunity, right? Here comes the whole thing. Here comes the trend, right? And it's floating right in front of you. You want to pretend that it doesn't happen, it's not there, but really you know there is demand for your product or service built into this trend, even with a little tweaking, and you need to go after it. but you don't know how to do it. You've never done it before. You assume people will come to you. They'll figure it out. We're great, and they don't come. And then finally, number 10, why would you hire a consultant or bring them in? This is real education. To influence others and to raise your profile. In other words, to kind of elevate the company, put it, maybe get an article or a TV interview or something that kind of gets the company a little bit of respect in the community. Might go at a trade show or do something there that kind of elevates the boss. Maybe it's an introduction of the new product, doing some kind of a short summary of what the new product offers, whatever it is. But there's nothing wrong with bringing a consultant in to utilize the media, repackage the product, and come out into the marketplace looking fresh and vibrant and new and exciting. All right, so those are 10 reasons why you might want to bring a consultant into your operation. Particularly now, by the way, during times of tumultuous change, it's especially good to have somebody with an outside perspective, somebody that has a new idea and isn't afraid, knows how to test it. This is another thing that a lot of people struggle with. They know that they can test things. The theory is understandable, but they don't know how to orchestrate the test and how to analyze the results. And the results are always informal, and you just kind of get it out there and see what happens. Then you pull back and you tweak it and you reintroduce it again. Most companies feel like that's a failure, process, not a successful process. So just getting them to think differently about innovation and trying new things is a victory. All right. We've gone through a lot of great material here today. I'm sure hoping that you'll reach out to newbraska.com if you'd like to learn a little bit more about some of this stuff. My name is Lynn Hinderaker, and we will be back. We will be back with WowBiz Nebraska. Lots of great, usable, practical, but creative input for your organization and its future. We'll see you next time here on WowBiz Nebraska.